This is a demo on how to make a gesture person sculpture similar to those that Giacometti made. First, you're going to get some wire. It's best to start out with about 2 or 3 feet to begin with. Straighten out the wire so that it's easier to work with. And use these wire cutters or needle nose pliers to cut the wire. You put the wire all the way in, and this is where the blade is, so be careful there, and then you'll just squeeze and it'll cut the wire. I like to start with the head. Your person should be no bigger than this half sheet of paper, which is 8 inches tall. This is the one that I did, and it's about, I don't know, maybe 6 inches tall. We don't have enough supplies to make really huge wire sculptures, and we're not going to do this for more than a couple of days. So start with the head, and what I like to do is twist a little ball, and I think that about the size of an almond is a good shape to start with so that you can have like a 6-inch person or an 8-inch person. The average person is between 7 and 8 heads tall. So if you wanted to make a sculpture that were 7 inches tall, how big would you want to make the head? Think about it. Think about it. Did you say 1 inch? Good, you're right. Now I've made a head and it's pretty rough, but I'm trying to make it a little bit more of a sphere, a little bit more 3D, so that it's not just a flat circle, and as I twist it, it has some volume. Now I'm going to cut some more wire and I'm going to make the legs and the arms and the torso. In order to give your legs and arms volume, it's a good idea to wrap the wire back on itself to make it a double line. Now you can take wire and wrap it like this around the arm to make it thicker. Okay, that's one arm. I'm going to leave the hand kind of an open circle so that that has more volume as well. Bend this back, and then I'm going to use my wire and kind of wrap around to make some shoulders. Don't pull it tight. Pulling it tight will use a lot more wire than necessary, and it'll take a lot longer. So just leave it kind of loose and leave the wire fat so it sticks out and creates volume. This is a diagram showing the proportions of an average human being. Most people are between 7 or 8 heads tall. So when you go to do your arms, look at this diagram and see how far down your arms should go. On this diagram it shows that the arms go about 4 more heads past the actual head. So when you do some measuring and you're cutting your wires, think about these proportions. Giacometti made his people a little elongated or longer than actual proportions to give them that look of being more sullen or being so skinny or emaciated. But you can decide how you want your people to be. Another trick to creating volume is actually to wrap the wire around your finger so that it sticks out like that, and then you can kind of compress it and move it around. That's a way to create volume without having to just do it by wrapping. Use your finger. You could use a pencil too. Once you have your figure done in terms of its proportions, now you can decide the pose that it's going to be. This is where you can work with a partner, and you can have your partner get into a pose that you like, and you can try to position your gesture sculpture just like the pose that your partner has. To display these, we are actually going to be hanging them. So you could do some sort of an upside down pose if you wanted, although that would be hard for your partner to demonstrate. But get creative and try to have your pose break different planes so it's interesting if you look at it from 360 degrees. I put mine into a splits position just like a 6th grader Paco did for our gesture sculpting activity yesterday. It was pretty awesome. And now I'm going to start to wrap this in foil. If at any point the class is ending, here's how you're going to save your work and put it away. Take that half sheet of paper and put your name and your hour on there. And then take your little guy, and if your guy isn't flat, flatten him out. And then just take a piece of tape and tape it to the paper. This way we can start right in the next class knowing whose gesture sculptures belong to who, and then slide this in either on top of your folders or behind your folders in the slots so that you can start up next class. Your final step is going to be to wrap your armature in tinfoil. I'm going to challenge each of you to only use 1 square foot of tinfoil. And what you're going to want to do is rip it into smaller pieces so that you're not using huge pieces when you wrap. when you wrap around it, you don't have to squeeze it super tight, but wrap enough to cover up the wire, and then you can kind of pinch the foil to keep it from undoing. Okay. It's important to pinch that foil so that your sculpture doesn't come apart. And then you can also pinch it where your sculpture should be skinnier, so I'm going to pinch a little bit more down here at the ankles, but I'm going to leave it a little bit fatter up here by the thighs. If your person has gotten too skinny in certain areas, you can use a little bit of foil and kind of ball it up to add volume, or you can always add a little bit more wire. The last step is to tie your wire gesture sculpture onto a paper clip with fishing line, and then we're going to hang these, and you won't be able to see the fishing line. I'm going to do 1 square knot, 2 square knots, so that one end of my fishing line is attached to this paper clip, and then the other end I'm going to tie around some part of my wire sculpture. You can decide how you want your sculpture to hang. If you want to do it, tie it by its foot or around the neck so it's like this. You could even maybe tie it around the hand or the torso, and maybe it would hang kind of like that. I went ahead and tied mine around the torso, so it creates this cool kind of horizontal look. And now, just by nature of the fishing line and whatever breezes are going through my room, my gesture sculpture has become kind of kinetic. It's moving, and this will be a cool way to display these. On your paper clip, take a little piece of tape and put your name on it so that we can grade these. All right, that's a lesson. Have fun.